Scotty White, World Combat Sports. I have the pleasure of speaking with the one and only Helen Peralta, cross-thread of mixed martial artist, bare-knuckle fighter, police Gazette champion. How you feel today?
I'm feeling great.
Hey, thanks for the interview, man. It's good to finally touch bases with you. Pretty much, you've been the talk of bare-knuckle fighting with your fight with Christine Ferreira. A lot of people pretty much tuned in and noticed who you are as a striker. You know, no gloves, no hand wraps. And it was one of the fight of the years, if you ask me. Very tough fight, especially in the women's divisions. Take us back to that fight. How did it all mature to the point where you was end up, facing Christine Ferreira?
Well, it all started, I was getting ready to make a comeback in MMA after a knee injury back in 2018. So 2019, from January to March, I had about over 10 fights get canceled or postponed, or the event get canceled, all the girls get injured, and all this other crap. So I was in Orlando training, no money, no fights. You don't get paid unless you fight, and then no idea when I was gonna fight next. Just so tired. And then I started selling blood plasma to just pay for gas money. I'm like, I'm just gonna stay ready, because I know some people get the opportunities because of who they know. I just have to work harder than most people in order to get there. So I'm like, when I do get the opportunity, they usually bring me in to make someone else look good. And it's my job to disappoint everybody there. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll just keep training. So I started donating blood plasma. That kind of makes you a little weaker. And then one Saturday, we were training so hard for a potential fight the next week. And I tore my LCL then. On my other knee, I was like, what the fuck? This is February 20th. I remember because it was my coach's birthday, and I went to his birthday party that night. And that's when I started limping, because I have a very high tolerance for pain. So after I tore my LCL, I went an hour with a judo Olympian training. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get behind him. And then I went, I think it was 15 rounds hard sparring with a guy that had a fight coming up before I even realized I was hurt. I realized that night, so I'm like, right, I need to do something else. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I'm really good with my hands, but boxing doesn't pay very well, and boxing is the dirtiest sport on the planet, if you ask me.
Have you ever fought, amateur or professional boxing?
I did 6 amateur boxing matches. I won 5 of them. I lost 1 by split decision. But I feel like it's the dirtiest sport on the planet, because they lie about the girls' records.
Okay.
They lie about everything. They just pretty much set you up. Most boxers don't have a real fight until they're 10-0. It's just.
So you pretty much saw the situation that happened with Atkins, 5-0, 5 knockouts, when she went in there with Estrada on.
Oh,
on
yeah,
top
I saw
rank.
that. Of course, that's typical boxing. I was not
Yeah.
shocked. The only difference is that now everybody has their apps on their phone and they get to talk about it on social
Yeah.
media. But it's always been like that. Boxing is the dirtiest sport on the planet, period. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? And I was friends with Christine. I was following her career because I feel like she's a really good fighter. And a lot of girls, kind of passed her just because of the way she looks and the way she handles herself. Like, Christine is not the girly girl. She's more like, I'm just going to go there and fight. But she hasn't figured out that it's not about the kicks and the punches. Mm-hmm. That's a byproduct. Usually, this is the entertainment business. They just want someone to be promotable, someone that they can sell for as long as they can afford to sell you, because then once you start getting smashed, they pretty much have to move on. But when you're not, flashing your body on social media as a female fighter, most people don't see your value. If you look at most of the bigger champions, now it's changing, but you can see very good fighters and they have maybe like a few hundred followers just because they're just fighters. They're not the sexy girl, at the beach. And I don't condemn that. I enjoy those pictures myself. Mm-hmm. I follow some of the female fighters because they are so beautiful, and I love beautiful, strong women. But that's not my personality. So when I saw that in Christine, I kind of started following her. And then I saw the whole bare-knuckle fighting, and I was like, oh, that is so badass. I don't think I'll ever do it because I have soft hands. And I started talking to her, because I admire her as a fighter. And then, I don't know, one day I told her I was interested, in doing bare-knuckle. She said she was going to let them know. She tagged me in a few posts when they were looking for fighters. And then one day I woke up and she called me out on social media. I was like, okay. She's like, I think a good fight would be me and Helen. I can't remember the rest of the post.
Do you think that was instigated by anybody at Bare Knuckles? Why would she just automatically call you out the next day?
I think because Beck has just moved to Bellator and she didn't have an opposition. I guess she just needed a fight. And I was always so nice to her and always praised her. So she probably thought, she mistook my kindness for weakness and thought, easy paycheck, I get to defend my title, I get some cool pictures and one-sided highlight reels for my page. So I was like, all my comment was hashtag and new. And everybody thought it was flopping. Everybody thought I was joking. I'm like, if I fight, I'm going there to win. You know, that's usually how I fight. Like, I fight until I can't fight anymore.
So she didn't have no film on you? There wasn't no film out there for her? Okay, what you just said, she automatically made the assumption that it was going to be an easy go, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't no film out there on YouTube? You don't have any film of fighting, that she could have looked at to say, okay, this girl's tough?
Well, like, what do you mean?
You know how fighters go out to YouTube? If they have a fight coming up, first thing they do is go out to YouTube to see if they have real or film.
Yeah.
They check out the film and check out previous fights the fighters had, and then they kind of make a judgment on if they want to fight them or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, they look at previous fights and then they say, okay. But
my previous fight were not that impressive. Before I started training for bare-knuckle, I was more concerned about takedowns because I started training, it's going to be 5 years altogether, November 20th this year. So I started training, I was already 27 years old. And all I had was just very strong hands. Like, if you get hit, whatever your background is going to go out the window, especially for girls in my weight class. So I was never that talented. When you look at my fights, it's always very simple. It's like, if I hit you once, the game plan is done and I'm probably going to win. And I always find a way to win. I believe that most of my opponents have been better fighters. I'm not delusional, I'm aware of that. I just kind of have a higher IQ to do the right thing to win the round, to do the right thing to win the fight when I need to, and to find that shot. So I've never been sophisticated enough for her to think it would be a challenge at all. So I'm sure she did underestimate how difficult the fight was going to be.
Did she hit you back when you put that new up there? Did Christine, respond to that?
Oh yeah, I think she laughed. She said I didn't have no chance and there were levels to this shit and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But she was right, there are levels.
Yeah.
I had never been hit that hard. I swear to you, when she hit me in the first round with the right hand, I thought someone has thrown a can from the crowd into the ring.
Wow.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So when I got there, everybody's telling me I have no chance and being super rude. Like Christine was going to destroy me. Even one of the officials told me she was going to rip my head off.
Oh.
So I was like, okay. So I'm like, I don't know what kind of environment this is. So I only had 2 people coming to the fight and I told them not to come because I'm like, once I win, they might get assaulted. I didn't know what kind of fans bare-knuckle had. So when I got hit, I really thought somebody threw a can into the ring. So the rest of the round, I'm looking for it. I'm like, is the referee gonna say anything? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And when I didn't see the can, I was like, shit, was that a punch? I need to get it together. I'm like, I am not ready for this. I'm like, okay, I need to put myself together. And then I remember I made some promotional t-shirts for that fight to help with training camp. And in the back of the shirt, I put hashtag BKFC7. I'm like, well, right now I control what people see when they Google this hashtag.
Yeah.
And that was at the end of round 1. I'm like, I can't let this be me when they go look it up. It's just me getting beat up. I'm like, I have to do something about it. And then comes the second round, she hits me, and I went to go back, and I felt the knee, because I've been protecting it for so long, so I kind of like just fell down. And I was so pissed, because I'm like, that wasn't real knockdown. So when I got up, that's why I paced back and forth. I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill you now. Because I'm like, I need to do something. I'm like, she's the champ. She fought there twice already. They don't know me, so if it goes to decision, I have to make sure that I'm doing something different. Then from that moment on, I remember the rules of bare-knuckles are different than boxing. So bare-knuckle is about forward pressure. So if you're always backing away, even if you land here and there, even if you look prettier doing it, it doesn't matter if I'm brawling because it is a fist fight. It's literally a brawl that you're getting yourself into. So I'm like, fuck boxing. I'm just gonna hit her as hard as I can until I can't hit her anymore, until the last bell, or until she fucking dies. I don't work there.
What is something you learned, like a bare-knuckle fight? You're actually placing punches with no knuckle covering. And the glove, in other sports, not so much MMA because it's 4-ounce gloves, but in boxing, the covering and padding is to protect the fighter, protect your hands. Most people think it's to protect the fighter, but it's really to protect your hands, knuckles, and everything else. But when you was fighting in bare knuckles, what did you see in the fight that made you think, man, I need to place this punch here? Or you was just going balls to the wall, boom.
Oh no, after the first round, there was no thinking at all.
Okay.
And my only goal was, I'm like, if I don't beat this bitch, she's not gonna shut the fuck up. That was one thing, because she just kept talking all the way into the ring. It's like, dude, I understand selling a fight, but you don't have to be a fucking dick. Can I curse on this thing?
I'm good.
Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, I was like, you know what, I can't let her win. I was like, and my eye was already swollen at the end of the second round. I'm like, I cannot look like this.
Yeah.
I have to take two planes to get back home and not be the champion. Like, well, how am I gonna justify my face? I'm like, nah, I can. And then after I started landing and I realized she did not like forward pressure, and those were the rules. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep coming forward. If she knocks me out, she knocks me out, but I'm going out on my shield. So there wasn't much thinking during the fight. After the fight, then yes, I started training better. I learned a lot more about how to place my shots, how to get people to react, because I don't need, proper boxing, you gotta have your weight on the side you're gonna strike to have more power. In bare knuckle, you don't need that much power. Even arm punches can cause a cut. It's just
Correct.
about placement. So I'm like, now, it doesn't matter what my body is. I'm just like the drunken master when I'm training, because I'm always trying to find that shot from everywhere I am. It's just kind of like that Sugar Ray Robinson footwork, kind of like tap dancing. So I like doing that now, and I feel like no matter how experienced, even when I go box against boxers, I do it anyways, and they can't really block it, they can't really see it coming because it's so unorthodox. So I learned how to do that. I learned how to protect my hands. Now I barely wear gloves. I only wear gloves when we're doing partner drills.
Yeah, I seen that. I was like, man, that's actually one of the best heavy bag drills I've seen a female fighter execute with no gloves on, period. Because most of them they protect, and this is going to gyms and whatever, they make sure they have the hand wraps on, but tagging the bag and digging in the way you were with no hand covering, that was impressive. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
well, thanks. Before I used to wear just the grabs. That's how I started.
Yeah.
Just the grabs, and I did that for like 6 months. Then I would just wear like some tape around my wrist and no grabs, just to protect my wrist for stabilization. Then I started doing a lot of wrist conditioning because I realized it's not so much here. What the problem is when this starts moving around. I have pictures when I'm punching Christine with this bone right here, as opposed to like, I guess my hand slipping, after sweat and just hitting here.
Sweat,
so I'm like, I need to stabilize this to protect my hand. Come my second bare knuckle fight, I came out of there with nothing. Like my right hand was slightly bruised, but like in a week,
no swollen eyes or nothing.
In a week I was able to start hitting pads again, and that, I felt a lot better about that.
So, being that Christine was your toughest fight in bare knuckle fighting, what did she say to you after the fight? Was it mutual respect now? Being that you took it on short notice?
She was respectful for about a quarter of a second, and then the moment her ass got off the ring, then she started running her mouth again. It was like verbal diarrhea, just excuses coming out of her mouth at the speed of light. And I'm like, I get it, nobody wants to get, because she kept saying I had no chance, and I'm not gonna touch her, and there's levels, and and coming in from a boxing background, I literally had 2 months of boxing. She was right about that, because even though there was some training, but there was a lot of things I couldn't do because of my knee again. And I was so embarrassed because I just recovered from a knee injury. So I never told, and I'm glad I didn't tell her about it, because we spoke the day before I got injured on the phone because I was frustrated about not being able to get fights. And I was talking to her, and luckily I got hurt the day after, so I never mentioned it to her. She did not know.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the universe unfolded as it should have happened at that point, because I might have mentioned it, because we did talk about previous injuries from training with bigger training partners and how hard the training is. So I'm glad I didn't have an opportunity to mention that. So she didn't know about it. Everything just kind of fell into place, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fight this girl, because you can't judge a book by its cover, and I don't like bullies. So I'm like, you're calling me out. She could have told me, hey Helen, you want to fight me? I don't have an opponent. And I would have said yes, because we were talking before behind the scene. But don't just call me out like it's gonna be an easy fight and then run your mouth the way you did. And I know, fighters, they either show their tits, if you're a female fighter, we see way out. If I had tits, I might be doing the same thing. Why put on this hard work? Or you can have a personality, which Christine does not have one. And then if you don't have those things, you gotta do something. You gotta have a persona you have to create. And then her persona is the misfit, and she's supposed to be the heel or whatever. So I understand it, and I give some space for that, because selling the fight doesn't just help her, it helps me, it helps the promotion, it's a business. Fine, but then after that, she just kept going. It's like, dude, you fucking lost. You lost 3 out of 5 rounds. 3 judges agreed, unanimous decision. It is not boxing, it's a fist fight. Look at the rules from that point of it not being boxing. It doesn't matter that you look prettier throwing the punches. I landed way more. You know, I was backing you up, especially after she got hit hard. She's like, okay, I didn't not like that. And I can understand. It was so close that it should definitely be a rematch. But don't make it sound like the whole universe was conspiring against you. You know, everybody was wrong and Christine was right. Man, you sound like Sugar Sean O'Malley. Not even Ronda Rousey, because Ronda Rousey didn't make excuses. She just avoided the media.
Correct.
You know, so she did worse.
That's true.
She did worse.
True
I don't
assessment.
think
You're
Ronda
right.
handled it wrong. I think she did right. You know, her state of mind, always winning. You know, you get defeated, you don't know how to handle it. A lot of these kids don't know how to take a loss. You know, I have lost in MMA. It's actually going to be the anniversary of my first loss. It was September 1st. I lost a MMA fight against Kay Henson.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I learned more from that than when I was winning. And I know that's what everybody says, but until you lose, you don't realize, you know, how, because going into that fight, yeah, I wasn't 100%, but nobody ever is.
Correct.
But even regardless of everything that was happening with me, I thought I could still win. I didn't even have my coach, you know, but even with all the things that were going on behind the scene, I still believed it because I never lost before. So, you know, that was a reality check. It made me take things more seriously. It made me take my body more seriously. You know, like now I know how to grab any injury that there is. I know how to protect it. I know how to say no to certain sparring partners if I feel like there's a possibility of things getting out of control. On fight week, I don't even climb ladders anymore. I make sure I'm 100%. You know, and now I take it more seriously. It made me more professional. Mm-hmm. So I did take it like a champ. I never made any excuses afterwards, although there were many. But I only talk about the excuses if I win the fight. Like, if I win the fight, like my last bare-knuckle fight, oh my God. I couldn't even gain weight. I don't know if I had the corona or what. I couldn't breathe very well when I was laying down in the bed.
What weight was it?
It was a 120. It wasn't the weight cut. It was just, I couldn't even gain weight back.
Okay.
I just got like this weird cold, but it was just like up here. Oh, I only felt it here, and it was just really hard to breathe. I remember walking to the cage. I told my coach, I'm like, Coach, I don't think I have a second round. You know, I was just thinking about my fight with Christine. I'm like, I can't do this again. Tonight, I'm not in shape to do this. And he said, but I seen you do 20 rounds with different opponents, training partners. And I was doing 20 rounds in a row. I'm like, yeah, but that was when I wasn't feeling like I'm feeling. He goes, you don't think you have a second round? I know. He goes, then finish her in the first. Problem solved. I'm like, this guy. So that's why I was throwing the way I was throwing. Every time she got close, I'm like, I'm going to frustrate her with the clinch. She's a boxer, right? Boxers don't know how to clinch. I'm like, I'm going to frustrate her, and then the moment I see that opening, I'm landing the shot, even if I break my hand, which I didn't. But that was my urgency in that fight.
So
but
you were still the featherweight, the Police Gazette featherweight champion. So you was able to defend your title once or not?
I didn't get to defend it. The girl wanted to fight at 120, so I dropped.
Okay, so basically you was that fight with you and Christine. You ended up vacating that title, the Police Gazette, and then you fought at a lower weight the next time around. So with your championship belt, how did everything turn out, you know, to the point of you making the decision to vacate? Because I know in one of your interviews you said being a champ or something means I have to be the baddest, you know, something like that. Being the champ, I have to be the baddest. So what point did it get to where you decided with your team, I'm going to vacate this title because of what's going on in BKFC or whatever? I
decided that was July 10. I made that decision. And, you know, I hadn't defended the title because of COVID. We were supposed to fight March 14, and that was supposed to be my first title defense. Then the fight got rescheduled to June 26 or 27. And I came back here again to do my training camp with my coach. And I found out 2 weeks before the event, through my opponent, that the fight was off. I'm like,
and who was your opponent?
Christine Ferreira was my opponent. The rematch. We scheduled it for March 14. We scheduled it for June 26. Again, it gets canceled, and I hear it from Christine. I got so mad. I mean, I appreciate she telling me, but I'm like, come on, guys, you can't just give me a fucking call. I'm sure you knew this was not happening. You see how fucking hard I'm working. You have an idea how many fucking beatings I take in the gym to get ready for a fight? I take more damage in the gym than I do when I go fight. Because in the gym, people that come help me, they're not bare-knuckle fighters, you know.
Correct.
They might not have a fight coming up. They're helping me out, so I can't just hit them. So I work on things that I'm not too good at, or work on certain specific. and I have to make sure they come back. So I'm usually the one taking the beating. I usually lose almost every round trying to make sure people come back to train, because a lot of people don't like coming back after I land a few, So it's like, come on, like, just tell me something. Then I heard from the matchmaker. He said, oh, David's gonna call you to let you know that the fight got canceled and to sort things out with you. Well, I never heard from Dave. Then eventually I messaged him. I'm like, because everything is falling through, and then with the whole Corona thing, I know that they were having challenges, so I was being patient. But then I realized, I'm like, man, it looks like the UFC are the only ones who are gonna be able to have business, because this is a political holdup, and I don't know how long we're gonna be in it. But I need to make money, and all my side hustles got 2020, okay?
Yeah.
They all got canceled. So I'm like, all right, I don't even have a car right now. Like, what do I do? And I said, well, if I can go to the UFC, they have a fight island. They will make things. They're having more fights now than they did before COVID.
True.
So I'm like, how do I get on that? Well, I'm only 2-1 in MMA. So I got a manager, and he told me, well, you need to switch and get some MMA fights, because right now the UFC just needs bodies. They're putting on so many fights. They just need bodies, and you're an exciting fighter. But the bare-knuckle fight don't count for MMA. You have to do MMA. So cool. I agreed. So I messaged Dave about it, but instead of being supportive, he just tried to like muscle me. And I'm like, so why, like, I thought I was gonna get more support from him. Like, okay, I understand what's happening. Because all I wanted was a few months. I got a big fight schedule for a promotion. The girl, she couldn't find an opponent at 125. That fight, it was 90% chance I was gonna get my ass whooped. But I thought to myself, if I can beat this girl, I can show that I belong in MMA, and I might be able to get in the contender series or the UFC, last minute. 3-1, it sounds better than 2-1,
Correct.
So I just wanted that fight, and that fight was September 11. And so I told, they didn't want me to do bare-knuckle August 21st, obviously, because they were concerned that I might get injured. I was going to be the main event. So I told them this stuff, and instead of like being like, okay, we can push this fight later, or try to be supportive, because I also, I need to fucking eat. He just turned around and he was just really mean. I'm like, okay, I understand that he's got a lot going on and all that, but it's like, take the time to think about how this is affecting people who don't have any resources, and this is a new situation. Not everybody, is prepared to adapt to what 2020 had brought to the table, because we still don't even know what's happening. Most people don't know what's happening.
Do you think you felt some type of way because you're able to basically get straight to the point, when you express what's on your mind? Do you think Dave might have felt some type of way that you was this outspoken, straight to the point? I'm gonna give you A to B. I'm not gonna go from A all the way around to D and come back. You know what I'm saying? Do you think he was offended or some type of way?
I don't think he was offended. I think he's just not used to people. Like, if you look around, people are never straightforward.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get people to say exactly what they mean and to mean what they say. But to me, it just saves time. So I just send me like a bullet points. I'm doing this and that because of this and this and that. But I want to leave it open for me to come back to bare knuckle, because I might be over my head. I might just get smashed. I was setting up a fight where I had very little chance to winning. So I told him, I might get smashed, and I want to be able to just come back to bare knuckle. I just don't want to sit back and say, well, I could have made it in MMA, but I never gave it a shot. I want to give it a shot because I do feel like I have a lot of tools in my arsenal. I'm a very exciting fighter to watch. Even when I didn't know what I was doing, I've always managed to win against people who were better than me, just for my IQ. Now I can match the IQ with actual technique. I want to try it out. Now that I'm healthy, I definitely want to try it out. So all he had to do was say, okay, Helen, I understand you want to do this thing. Fine, we'll move this fight for... They ended up moving it anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the mind-blowing part. And then I had just hired a manager, and he wanted me to do MMA. So I'm like, okay, what I learned being a manager in many positions before. I'm a head chef, professional chef. So I'm really good at delegating, and one of the things that I always teach people, restaurant management, is when you hire someone, you have to let them do their job. So I said, okay, I'm not gonna undermine this guy. He spoke to Dave about taking my name off the car, whatever. I told him not to, but he did anyways. Fine, I'm like, I'll step aside and let this guy do his work, and if it doesn't work out, then I have premises to fire him, right? But in the meantime, I can't just not let him do his job. So I stepped back, I didn't say anything on social media, I didn't say anything more to Dave. I'm just kind of waiting. Haven't been able to get the fights to stick. So I'm like, right now I feel the same as if I didn't have any management, because I had many talks about fights, but not any actual contract. Nobody's sending me a bout agreement. Everybody's just talking about dates and names, and these girls keep getting injured, or I'm not the right fight, or...
So that's in bare-knuckle fighting and mixed martial arts, huh?
So now mixed martial art, I understand. In bare-knuckle, I'm high risk, high reward. Okay? If you fight me, you get the title. It's great, right? In MMA, I'm high risk, low reward because I'm only 2-1. So the girls that have the skill to beat me are probably, undefeated, or they have a lot more fights, and they don't want to risk losing to someone who hasn't fought in 2 years, hasn't been training MMA, who's only 2-1. It looks bad, and they probably watch my page and they know that if you get in there, it's dangerous. I don't armbar people. I break the fucking face. And I actually had a promoter tell my coach the other night that he wanted to put me on, but he didn't want any medical suspensions. I'm like, what are you talking about? And
That's the craziest thing I ever heard, man.
And my coach was mad, and I was mad too, but I do appreciate that he said that because it gave me a different perspective. I'm like, okay, I understand that I'm not signed with any promotion, so wherever I go, I'm fighting one of their girls. So, well, you can change that, you can make me be a part of the promotion, offer me something, Let's talk about this.
So no medical suspensions, man. He wants you to go straight to the body. No face shots, no nothing.
I don't know. I'm like, well, I haven't hurt everybody, And now that I have, before, girls will get hurt because I don't know how to finish them. So there was a few decision wins where this girl never came back to fighting. It was very, their face. I just couldn't finish them. I was just punching them all over the place. A lot of damage, probably take a lot of time to recover, but I wasn't finishing the fight. But now I have the ability to finish the fight. They're not gonna take that much damage because now it takes less for me to put them down. When you get a quick knockout, you don't take that much damage as somebody just fucking punching you for 3-5 rounds straight. So but I appreciate, the honesty on his part. But I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm cutting weight. Look how small I am. And every time, I don't know if I'm fighting next week. I don't know if I'm fighting next week. That's what was happening when I decided to do bare-knuckle. So now I'm like, okay, do I have to just go back to bare-knuckle? But I want to do MMA.
Okay.
I want to make it to the UFC. It's something that I want to check off my list. I want to say I made it there.
So what's the weight differential? Because I know in the UFC, the featherweight is 145. So you're losing weight. What's your weight you're trying to compete in mixed martial arts?
Oh, I'm a 115 fighter. I fight a strawweight.
So bare-knuckle fighting, you're a featherweight, which is around 126. 125,
yeah.
26.
But,
okay, I got you.
But that was because that's the weight class Christine was on, and that was the only weight class they had, which makes sense. There's not that many females that want to get punched with a bag of bones. And you don't want to spread them out.
Correct.
So they had only one weight class. I know they added the 115-pound division. I told Dave I can fight 115, 120, 125. I just wanted to fight.
Correct.
That was last year. After my fight with Christine, I didn't stop harassing him about fighting. That's why I ended up fighting that other girl in November, even though it wasn't part of the tournament. My contract was only for the tournament. I was supposed to have 2 fights and then get the world title. That didn't happen, okay? Then I'm like, all right, you want me to fight Christine again? I'll do it. I want to help build this because I can see that it's going places. Come March 14th, it didn't happen, whatever. June 26th, I started to get mad because I didn't get any notification. But then July 24th, when I found out I was not on that card, then I was fucking pissed. Come on, just call me, talk to me. I have nothing else going on. This is all I've been waiting for and preparing for. And then I'm like, and then the Paige thing comes along. I'm like, okay, so it's not a lack of fundings.
But check this out, though. What was a little puzzling was they did Jason Knight and Arnold Lowball twice.
They did what?
The bare-knuckle fighting championship, they put on Jason Knight and Artem Lobov twice.
Yeah, no, and I was
it was a bloodbath the first time, almost similar to you and Christine. Y'all was banging it out, they was banging it out. But they gave Artem Lobov and Jason Knight a second try. I'm not sure why it would have been any more difficult for you and Christine to step back.
No, they wanted to do it. It was just March 14th it got canceled because I had already driven to the hotel when the commission canceled. We couldn't have the event because of COVID. June 26th, I think it was COVID too. I don't know, something to do with that, with not being able to have a crowd or not being able to stream the fight. I'm not sure because nobody fucking told me. Nobody called me. My opponent told me the fight was off. Okay.
Gotcha.
They've never called me. So I was like, okay. So July 24th, when I saw that they said we're back July 24th, I just assumed, because I signed up for BKFC 11, I assumed I was on that card. And then I messaged the matchmaker. He's like, no, you're on August 21st. And I got so pissed because I've just turned down a big fight with Invicta FC for July 30th. But I have to turn it down because if I'm fighting July 24th, I can't fight July 30th,
Correct.
So then I turn around and contact Shannon. She's like, oh, we just filled the spot. So I that's when I lost it. And I was like, you know what? if you can show me a little bit of respect, and this fight is something that people want to see. We already done it. You know what you're investing in, and I'm like, okay, fuck you back. Because you're fucking me here now, right? So then fuck you back. And then when I stood there, I'm like, all right, let me see what this management thing does. Let me see if I can line up. I had like 2 or 3 MMA fights lined up. Now I have 0 again. There's a guy every week tells me he's going to send me a bio agreement for the last 2 weeks. So it's been like 14 days every day. Yeah, tonight. I don't know what's happening there, so I still don't know. I might be fighting September 19th. I'm getting ready for it. I'm calling the weight, but I really don't know. I'm just trying to like stay ready. But then while I'm waiting, because I understand the time value of money. It's money now versus money later. I'm like, all right. And then I see the whole Paige thing. And I was like, how much they're going to pay her just for social media following. And I'm like, so it's not a lack of funding. It's a lack of consideration. It's a lack of appreciation towards what I've done. Like I got paid less for my second fight than I did for my first. But I didn't complain. Why? Because my point of view was we're building this thing up. I felt it was an opportunity for me to fight outside of the tournament that never really happened. And so I just went with it. When they canceled the tournament and they told me, you just got to fight Christine again for the world title. I'm like, okay, I went on with it 3 times. Now the 3 times was the charm. I was like, you know what? I'm going to step back. And now that I see how much you're able to pay someone, I think we already proved ourselves. And I do feel that once Christine gets her title back on September 11th from a nobody like she did the first time.
So she's fighting somebody that's actually champion?
No, the title's
vacated. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because I haven't defended in a year because all the fight got canceled.
So she's just going to fight for the vacating. So you basically saying she win that fight, she gets to be champion again, and then it comes back to you and her full circle.
I think so because I really believe the fans are gonna push for it. That's what I'm counting on. So that's my bargaining chips. I'm hoping Christine goes in there.
You gotta push for it too, Helen.
Well, I am, but right now I give it the promotion and everybody a chance.
Yeah.
I like to think ahead and I don't like burning bridges. I'm being very careful to what I said. Even on social media, people like send me a screenshot. There's just ridiculous things being said. And I always tell them, as long as they're pronouncing my name right, I don't care if they're using it. Just pronounce it right. That's all I ask for. So I know that people are going to want to see that. She's going to walk through this girl like she did when she got the title. I don't know if you noticed, both Beck and Christine got the title from the same person. And that person has never won a bare-knuckle fight. I'm the only legitimate champion they ever had in the females division because I was the only one who got the title from someone that counts, from someone that can fight, from someone from an actual champion. You know what I mean? And then Beck's title defense against some poor girl in Mexico who never had a professional fight, never been under the bright lights. They probably make sure they're intimidating her in the back like they did with me. Come on now. I'm the only true champion.
I have my own take on that, Helen. When it came down to Beck Rollins, I said, I used to tell people, right, as media, I said, Beck Rollins wasn't that exciting in the UFC. So she's in an area of combat right now where she's being placed as the number 1. But she's not the best. It's just somebody they brought over. She still has the femininity to her, but enough for the BKFC to say she's tough enough to kind of, draw in the fans a little bit. So I seen all these people just gravitating to Beck Rollins. I said, wow, her light that was in the UFC is much darker than she's shining over here to BKFC. Because she came over to the BKFC, a lot of people was drawn into her. She used to do this all the time and all that. I said, she's not that good. She's slow. She get hit a lot. So when she was able to become champion, it reminded me of Ronda Rousey, but with less talent. You know what I'm saying? And it ended up showing for Beck Rollins. But with you and Christine, both of you all went in there and was in a firefight. And I'm going to be honest with you, like you came out of nowhere. Like I was like, who is this chick Helen? You know what I'm saying? Okay, let me sit back and watch. Because I even looked on YouTube for you. I was like, it's not much on YouTube at all about her throwing hands or anything. But by the end of the first round, I said, man, this is going to be a real nice fight. And it was the most exciting female fight, period, in BKFC. Unfortunately for you, you got to a point, very sound-minded. You've seen the whole landscape of BKFC. Combat sports, man, it's a tough area for you to have a full-time job. You know what I'm saying? It's a very tough area for you to actually believe something's going to happen the way it should be, and it doesn't. It doesn't even come close. Because, you was legitimate champion. And then you turn around and you don't get the same energy that you're looking for. She said, okay, I reached this mountaintop. Now I'm looking for everybody to come in. I'm looking for Dave to give me these, accolade, start promoting me more, and it don't happen. Now you have Paige come in.
So what? Without no fight, she's literally the face of the female division.
It's almost
now.
like Beck. Paige is 8-5
but you know,
right now.
I give Beck more respect because here's the thing: when she came in, nobody was doing it. If somebody would have contacted me and told me you want to get into a bare-knuckle fight with anybody, I'd be like, no, what the fuck would I do that? That's crazy. So she did bring some attention to it. You know, she does. You know, yeah, she didn't do that well in the UFC, but she made it to the UFC. Like, how many people can say that? You know, especially back in the day. Now they just need bodies, so they're going through a lot of people. Before it wasn't that easy. So she did and she did bring something to the promotion. I mean, who else were they gonna put there?
So you don't think it was easier back then when Beck came onto the UFC?
Oh yeah, no, it was easy
for women.
But you know, she made it there. A lot of women don't. So that alone, like, I'm not there. I'm trying to get there. So that alone, you know, it would be logical for me to give you some respect for that and to be the first one doing it. So that credit she got, I don't think it was, you know, exaggerated. I think it was the right amount. But then after that, you know, I know that they picked their matches very carefully because she never fought Christine. What do you think that is? Yeah. You know, that's just how she was able to become world champion. I mean, and then both getting the title, a world title from someone who's never won a bare-knuckle fight, period. It's like, you know, maybe should have waited on that one.
So Paige, 8-5, come over from the UFC. You know, the word was out there behind the scenes a little bit. So I'm saying, okay, what weight class she's going to fight in? Because I thought about you, and I really thought you were still a champion. I didn't know you vacated. But I said, man, she's going to have problems because Paige, mixed martial arts skills, she's faced some adversities, 5 adversities, but you know, she faced submission, and then sometimes she was outworked on the feet. What's your take on her coming over to the BKFC, getting all this promo, and signing a contract with you as the champion? You didn't even get the opportunity to.
I think it's a good move from her point. It's a good business move from both sides, BKFC and from Paige. Like, I don't see this as a downfall. Yeah. I mean, they're going to be doing that in order to bring attention. They have to bring attention to the sport. It's growing, right? So I'm actually kind of happy as a woman. You know, women are coming in and they're doing good. It's usually mostly men. So from that side, I think it's good signing from her. I don't think she would have gotten more recognition and more hype from any other sport. If she goes to Bellator, she's just one of the many. Correct. And then she'll probably lose there too. Correct. I do think this is a good business move from her. Can she be successful in bare-knuckle? I believe she could. I mean, she's a tough girl, right? She knows, I mean, bare-knuckle training is so much easier. Like, training MMA now, I'm so exhausted. I'm exhausted right now. I haven't eaten anything. I'm doing intermittent fasting because I'm cutting weight for a fight that I don't even know if it's going to happen. You know, training for MMA is very difficult, man. And I know she was dealing with a lot of injuries from training MMA, which I think might have been a factor for her to pick this. Plus, considering she's gonna come in a sport you have no business in and immediately become the face of it. I think that was a good move on her part. It doesn't matter that it didn't work out for me. It was just, you know, for her it was a good move. It's not her fault.
They were just looking for a more, I guess, in comeback. It's a different deal. From the men's side of the house, they want the men to be brash, have the bravado, machismo. But for the women, they want you to have a little bit of bravado, but something they can promote and put on the flyers and everything. Exactly. And then the male audience gravitate to and all that.
For the casuals. I mean, it's changing a little bit, but usually when women were fighting, that was the time to go pick up the pizza. That was the time to go make the sandwich. You know, now you have women headlining events. Now you have people like Amanda Nunes holding two-way classes. She doesn't play that, you know, the pretty girl, you know, thing on social media. She's a real fighter. Yeah. You have the 115 champion. I can never pronounce her name properly. The first Chinese female.
Wally Zhang.
Yeah. She's a badass. She's also not playing that game. She's a real fighter. And then you have Valentina Shevchenko. She's, again, a real fighter. Yeah, she's cute, but she's a real fighter. So things are changing. You know, they're moving in the right direction. But as of now, you still gotta be, you still gotta kind of sell sex in a way to bring in the casuals because that's what's gonna get their eyes on whatever you're doing.
I don't see any 3 of those champions: Amanda, Valentina Shevchenko, Wally Zhang. The UFC is not promoting them on the flyer. Heavy.
Exactly. You know so then you have that. So your skill can get you to the top, but you know, in order, like, how many people actually know about martial arts? 5% of the people who have a fucking opinion. Yeah. So how do you get the other 95%? That's where the money is. Correct. So you don't have to be a martial artist to have millions of followers. You just have to cater to the people that don't necessarily understand what's happening. So it could be based on anything. It can be based on your race. Like Conor McGregor was able to get a whole country behind him. You know, I was the first guy to ever go that far as to make it, okay, we're in this together. Like, he actually sold that. Or you gotta find a way. I mean, maybe you're cute. Maybe you have to buy the tits. It doesn't matter. People don't even care. The other day, I put a picture of me that my friend took an app and made the boobs larger. Obviously, obnoxiously fake.
And you say people gonna say they're not mine.
And there were some people, like by the comments, that I can tell they weren't even aware that they weren't real. So it doesn't really matter. I have a bunch of fucking dudes on my messenger now. I'm like, it was supposed to be funny. Saying the dumbest fucking shit. It's like, Jesus Christ. So you can buy body parts if you need to in order to promote yourself, but you still need to be able to fight in order to maintain that status. Or you can have the haters be the reason why you're successful. Like some people you can see when they're gonna fight, most people want them to lose, but they're still gonna tune in. So it doesn't matter whether you want them to win or lose, whether you believe they can win or not. Because I've looked at what's happening, from the outside. I don't comment, trying to keep it to myself until all this, pans out, see what happens. But I've noticed that most of the comments on even Paige VanZant, I went there, somebody tagged me on a post that she was saying, who should I find next or whatever. And most people, about 75 to 80%, are just saying really mean things to her. So most people that are following her page are not really fans. So it's usually, it's weird. It's an insecurity that people have, that they want to project themselves on other people. They want other people to fail so they feel less shitty about their fucked up lives or the lack of, stick-to-itness. Huh?
That's pretty much social media.
Yeah, that is pretty much social media. So when you look at that, it's like they're not necessarily fans. It's just people that when they want to see you win or lose, that's just the way it is. As long as they follow. So I'm like, all right,
I think if Paige was to just keep her IG thing going, her hustle, being on IG, making that money on IG, people say cool. Take the photos and everything. People say cool, but she is a tough fighter. She is. She just still in development stages of being absolutely well-rounded. She's tough, no doubt about it. I mean, she's been placed in some situations where she was bleeding and she was still fighting on until she was submitted. I'm just curious, what she was doing over there for her looks. Who she's gonna face over here in bare-knuckle fighting is gonna mess that up. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's not you or Christina, then who's going to touch her up? You're going to get fights, but I think it's going to be more so catered to her.
Listen, the other day I saw someone share a post. It's this boxer, Eva Knight. The only reason I remember her name is because I wanted to fight her in MMA, but I wasn't the right fight for her. And then she goes and gets submitted. But whatever. She was talking smash about how she wanted to fight Paige and all that. That's an easy fight for Paige. I think Paige smashes her. Actually, I will fight both of them if they let me on the same night. I will fight both of them on the same night. But they might make that fight because this girl is a boxing champion, and it's an easy fight for Paige. They're trying to promote Paige, and that will work. And they have a background story, If they put Paige there blatantly with someone who cannot fight, I think people are going to take notice at this point. So they're going to have to come out with something creative.
Oh, very creative. They're gonna come out with something very creative.
They
because
gotta.
You have y'all up here and what people are seeing, especially the males being there, and then the females come in and put on an entertaining fight like that. Paige is gonna have to do something to exceed that, but her opponent is gonna have to match the intensity.
In some way, yeah. So I'm curious to see what they come up with. Or they'll give that fight to. Brittany Hart. That's whoever needs a easy title. That's who they fight.
I see that. Brittany Hart. Yeah, I see that.
So had I lost my previous two fight, I would have probably been making some money in November.
yeah.
Winning is work against me in this case. So.
Yeah, just hopefully it all works out for you, Helen, because you're a very entertaining fighter, and I just can't base you off one fight. You know what I'm saying? It seems like you're more willing to improve your skill set. Each time out. So I'm not sure, man. The move that BKFC is making to have Paige VanZant sign this $1 million contract when she's not the best fighter, it's just a little bit crazy. It just, when you mention Conor McGregor had the dynamic. He went up, he knocked out Jose Aldo, a legend in the sport, 13 seconds. And then he went up, faced Nate Diaz at 170, went all the way up to weight class, and then came back down and beat Eddie Alvarez at lightweight. That allowed people to gravitate to him in a different way than they are you, because Ireland, his swag with a suit and all that, you might need to come in with some type of different dress code or something, because you know how to articulate yourself. You know how to speak very well, and for combat sports there, Helen, that's what they need.
I agree with that. I think I'm a diamond in a garbage can as of now.
Yeah, you could actually be a good, like if they was to ask you to commentate.
I
You
am
can
interested in
commentate.
that.
Absolutely.
I am interested in that. I feel like I do pay enough attention.
Yeah.
When I'm watching a fight, I can almost predict the moves, almost like I have a controller sometimes. And I'm like, all right, I know a little bit. I spend time. Last night I went to sleep at 5:30 in the morning. I couldn't sleep because I don't have a contract, and that bothers me a lot. So I don't force myself to sleep. I watch tapes. I watch commentators commenting. I want to know what people are looking at and looking for. I want to see judging. I like to look at fighters post-fight interviews just to kind of get an insight of the mindset that get you where you need to go and all of that stuff. So I am going to go into sports management in like 5-10 years from now. I am going to go into promoting probably about 10 years from now. I do want to do commentating. I wouldn't mind getting my toes wet in like refereeing, just to get a well-rounded understanding of what the fight business is, because I'm in it to stay.
Correct. So you think you need to enhance your social media presence sometime?
I have been working on it. I mean, besides the fake tits,
Yeah.
I'm going to start to be a little bit more active, on social media. But then right now, all I need is fights, because I can use that. A lot of people, they always, Christine is really good at that, like cutting videos, so it's only put the part where you're winning and promote that.
But she also put a lot of short clips out there, her training, all the time.
Yeah, I do the same thing too.
All the time.
But that just takes me away from my fights, because I don't, like some girls, they will cancel fight over a workout video. Like, it's insane.
True.
So now I'm trying to not to put too much out there, because I want to remain, I want people to look at me that they can see more humane, more human-like. Like, okay, she's just
well,
like
you're trying
us.
to portray yourself as a sheep, but you're a wolf. You know what I'm saying? You want people to think that you're a little sheep, but I don't know. You're trying to manipulate the perception someone have of you, so they won't cancel the fight.
I'm trying, because that's pretty much what social media is about,
Yeah.
manipulating people's perception.
Yeah.
There's not a filter, so I can look like a little bitch. I will use that. Maybe I'll get a fight. But other than that, I'm just trying to be a little bit more engaged with the fans. But in my opinion, the best way right now is to put up good performances. Things are switching now. Maybe before it was only 5% of real fight fans. Now it's about 20% of those people. So it's moving in that direction. And, as you said, I like to speak to people. I like to inspire people. I'm very good with words. I'm very good at handling myself. I do have, if I don't become popular, it's just because of social media stuff. It's just for what I do outside of the cage or the ring, which I plan to get more involved now that I have a better understanding, especially during this pandemic. I have to keep my brain busy. So I feel like I'm mature, like 10 years. And
Where are you from originally?
I am from Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic. How long you been over in the U.S.? Were you born here or?
No. I came after like 15, 16 years.
Okay, so I never had the opportunity to ask you, what led you to combat sports? What were you doing before this,
Oh, I was a professional chef. I was getting ready to possibly opening a tapas restaurant in Valladolid, Spain. So everything was going great. I was teaching culinary arts at a community college. I was making really good money. My schedule was Monday through Thursday, so I had a 3-day weekend every weekend.
Okay.
But there was just something missing. I had this since I was little. My grandmother always told me, you either do things right or don't do them. So everything I did, I was always good at, because I always make sure I did it right. So it sounds like a good thing, but the problem is that it's really hard for you to find out what your gift is. What is that thing that makes you tick when you're good at everything you do. So it took me that long. It's just like there was emptiness. I would come out from work and say, yeah, I have money, I have my own place, I could go anywhere I want, but there was just something missing. I was just drinking a lot of alcohol and smoking a lot of cigarettes, and I wanted like a reason to stop, but I didn't really have one. And as a chef, you work so many hours that it's either alcohol or drugs, something. You gotta be on something because you can keep going for that many hours constantly. So I don't know, somebody came to my house, showed me a fight of Ronda Rousey getting knocked out by Holly Holmes. Because when I said I didn't know who they were, they couldn't believe it. How can you not know who Ronda Rousey is? I'm like,
wow.
No. He's like, you gotta watch it. She got knocked out. So when he pulls up the clip, he didn't tell me which one is Ronda. So I'm just watching. So I start predicting what's gonna happen, and then boom, there comes the head kick. I'm like, how the hell did I know that? Like, I don't even train. And I was like, you know what? I can do this, and I can be better than them. And I was really drunk, and nobody believed me. The next day, I woke up with a headache. I went to grab a beer to fix the headache. And then I was trying to remember the night. I'm like, what happened last night? I drank too much. And I was like, I remember saying, I'm going to be champion. And everybody was like, yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna show them I can be whoever the fuck I want to be. And then I contact the only MMA fighter I knew at the time in Fairfield, Iowa, and I was like, hey, I want to be champion. What do I do? And he was pretty much like, show up. Like, what do you
So
think?
you had very limited amateur fights. You know what I'm saying? What you had like over 10, right?
I had 10 MMA fights, 6 boxing, and 1 kickboxing.
Fast track too.
Yeah, I did it all in 18 months.
Wow. Okay.
And I got a contract with Invicta with less than 2 years of training.
Okay.
I just really, when I said I was going to do it, like I told you, my grandmother always said you either go all in or all out. After a year of training, I stopped teaching. And I started looking for a little side hustle. I didn't care about having money or nice cars or buying clothes. I was just like, I started so late. I was 27 when I watched that fight. I was like, you know what? I need to give it my all because most of these girls, they're like 20 and they're black belts already in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a big part of MMA. I was like, I can't stop. So I'm like, I can't go to work. And they're like, so you're going to quit your job so you can go wrestle people in underwear. So I'm like, yep, that's what I'm doing.
You got to make a living. You got to get paid.
Yeah,
You know,
I would like do stuff. I would even go gardening. I didn't care what jobs, take up garbage, clean. I didn't care. I just decided I just want to be good at this. This is not something you can afford to half-ass because the consequences are so great. You can really get hurt out there. And especially I never was the cute girl, so they always bring me in to fit someone else, to make someone else look good. So I always had to be ready for that.
So what's next for you? Like when can we expect you back in the square circle?
Square circle, hopefully before the end of the year. I'm gonna see how things transparent with this new management. I'm not happy. You know, my situation hasn't changed by having a manager.
Okay.
It's not his fault. You know, it's
Yeah.
really hard to adapt to what's happening 2020. I did wanted to give him an opportunity to do his job without me interfering because I've always been in a position of management, so I know how important that is. But then, I'm gonna get back because I wanted to get back anyways. I just wanted if I can't get the Paige fight for whatever reason, maybe they don't want to get punched. I don't know how she's gonna survive in Bare-knuckle without getting punched. I know they're not gonna give it to Christine because the results will be very similar.
True.
So if you don't want to give me the fight, I understand. I understand what we're doing, having her and growing the business. And from a management perspective, I think it's a good move. So I'm not gonna interfere with that. But how about you pay good money for a real fight? Christine and Helen for the world title. After Christine gets her belt back and there's more hype now. There's gonna be more hype after she wins. So right now, these are my bargaining chips. So I'm all counting in Christine, winning this fight decisively in an impressive manner, highlight real stuff, and then running her mouth like I know she would. And she works for me. And then when she's done building the fight on her side and there's enough value, I'm hoping that Dave can see the value on, you want to have the pretty face or whatever you want to do. And I understand it and I'm all pro it. I like a lot of her pictures. She's really cute. Do your thing, but then, feed the real fighters. Put us out there. Build, because he told me, if you win this fight for my second fight, if you knock this girl out, I'm gonna make you a star. Well, that didn't happen. So I'm always the one taking the losses and being understanding. I think it's time for him to also be understanding. But if he can't come up to that conclusion on his own, I'm hoping that fans asking for the fight, demanding the fight, talking about it. You have rumors about me being scared running, which is fine. We need all that. So then when we bring it back, then people will be like, oh my God, it's finally happening. And hopefully he'll see the value of maybe setting up a main event. Or if not, just pay it like it is a main event. I mean, we already showed that this is a fight that had value. We already gave a sample of it last year. So,
Is he going to bring you on? You think he's going to bring you to the fight?
I don't see why not. He's a businessman. I mean, it shouldn't be.
He should bring you ringside, you know what I'm saying? For that fight. If she's fighting for the title, you should be ringside to really pump it up.
Oh, you mean to watch the fight?
Yeah.
I don't think our relationship is there yet, and I haven't contacted him because, again, I still have a manager, and I don't want to interfere because he called Dave. I told him, don't call Dave, I'll talk to Dave. But then when he saw the fight being announced after the last BKFC fight, he said that was going to interfere with us trying to get an MMA fight because people just didn't want me to do bare-knuckle before their MMA event. Okay. So I understood that, so I let him. So
that's what the manager's for, right? To make the phone calls.
I know, but I kind of, I've been negotiating with Dave from the beginning, and I know he can get a little emotional with things, and I didn't want to try to muscle him. Like, I knew I didn't have a contract with him because he never sent me a contract, but I didn't want to have to bring it up. I wanted just to be the dumb fighter that follows order and make him think that was his idea, and then fine, and just fly under the radar. That's how I usually do things. I don't try muscling people. I don't like that friction because I need him more than he needs me. So I wanted to leave that open. So I am hoping that bargaining chips gain more value thanks to Christine's training. And after that, I'm start talking. Then I'll do more interviews and I'll bring, these things to life. Because I do have a lot to say. I just don't feel the need to say it. Sometimes they tag me on this podcast with like 5 followers. Who the fuck am I talking to here? I'm going to wait until this is worth something and I'll say it to a bigger crowd, a bigger audience. I don't interact.
But appreciate the 5 followers because guess what, Helen?
Okay.
They can share everywhere.
Yeah, but it's not enough for me to make the statements I'm making here.
Oh, yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like burn bridges over 5 people that probably not even my fans listening to it and not even gonna appreciate what I'm saying anyways. When you have a bigger audience, it increases the chance of someone with actual brains listening to what you have to say and understanding what you're doing.
True. And with social media, there are what you call raw followers, ones who actually tuned in to that particular podcast and built it up. And then you have the injection of followers, which is just something dealing with the algorithm and everything like that. But I understand what you're saying, but I look at it like this. If you're trying to grow, fighters need to get their exposure out there by all means necessary. And I totally get some fighters just don't want to talk to somebody with 5 followers. And then others want people who with a high following. Yep. But usually the ones that's high following, they only want to deal with the people on that level.
Yes. But that's not what I mean. I do a lot of interviews. I don't care how many followers you have. I said I wouldn't respond to Christine on a podcast with 5 followers because it will be a waste of material. And I can use this material for the bigger show. And plus, it's not going to get me anywhere. The interview's for her.
Smart assessment.
If the interview's for me, like now, then I am willing to share. I don't care how many people are watching.
Smart assessment.
Especially right now because I'm trying to negotiate. So I can't just put all my thoughts out there. You got to do things quietly. So I'm like, why would I do that? What am I trying to prove? Now, if I see 1 million people tune in and something that is not true is being said, it's 1 million people. I better say something. Yeah. But if it's 5, they can wait. They can wait.
Where can they follow you on social media, Helen?
My social media are Helen Peralta on both Facebook and Instagram, and also on Twitter. Helen Peralta 123. I had to add some numbers.
I want to tell you thank you for stopping through. I'm up the way about an hour and a half out, and that's what I do. I go up here and try to cover the fighters on the grassroots and at the highest tier. But I truly appreciate your professionalism, kind of breaking down some stuff and educate me a little bit on what your mindset is as a fighter. I truly appreciate the interview. Look forward to seeing you step back in, whether it's mixed martial arts or bare-knuckle fighting. And any final words you want to say to your fight fans is out there supporting you.
I just want to thank everyone that's sticking with me. I know that especially now, there hasn't been any fight. I haven't fought since November, but I still feel a lot of support from people that remember, how much work I put into it, and people that watch what I do and they see I don't let up. I stick to when I say I'm gonna do something, I just do it. Like, look how lean I am right now, and I don't even have a contract, but I'm like, I have to be ready. I'm a professional, and I take it serious. And I appreciate the people who do follow me because they care about me and they want to see me succeed. And I also appreciate the haters because you kind of need them. Yeah, you do need them.
You do.
They won't like your post, but they're watching.
They'll talk about you on somebody else's post, and you're not even there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And if you are going to talk about me, as long as you pronounce my name properly, I do not have a problem with it, or spell it properly. So it's still, they're abused. It's just the way that you market yourself nowadays. Like, people choose to be the heel sometimes, and it works for them. To me, I'm just me. I'm not going to change that part about me unless it's to develop it into something better. So from here up, and I appreciate the support, and I appreciate the good intentions, and even people who maybe never talk to me, but they see me and they say, I want her to win. I appreciate you too. I can feel the energy.
Thank you very much, Helen Peralta. Salute from World Combat Sports.
Thank you.
All the best.